Good evening, dear ladies. Let's start Bezrat Hashem by blessing that may Hashem give us the merit, שיהיה לנו את הזכות לקדם פני משיח צדקנו ברחמים בואים במהרה בימינו אמן. אליהו נביא אליהו תשבי אליהו גלעדי במהרה יבוא אלינו משיח דוד אליהו נביא זכרו לטוב. And we all have the זכות to see the building of בית המקדש השלישי במהרה בימינו אמן. כי עין בי נראו בשוב אדוני ציון. אתה תקום תרחם ציון כי עת לחננה כי בא מועד. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשוב חדש ימינו כקדם. And Bezrat Hashem, that we will all have the zchut to go to the land of Israel, to Eretz Yisrael on the wings of eagle, and may we all have part in Eretz Yisrael. בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, אין עוד מלבדו, השם שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. And everything that we do is בשם כל ישראל, in the name of all of the children of Israel, Bezrat Hashem. בנות יקרות, now it's the yortzeit of the Baba Sali, so in his zchut Bezrat Hashem, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, we're going to send you a shiur about the Baba Sali, בסייעתא דשמיא on the WhatsApp. And בסייעתא דשמיא, we are doing the shiur also for רפואה שלמה, להאדמו"ר the Kosovo Rebbe, הרב שרגא פייבוש בן מלכה, שיהיה לו רפואה שלמה, למלכה בת אלינור מרגות, and also למעיין הודיה בת אסתר, גיטל בת שרה, נליה נקדם בת זינה זילפה, לייזר בן סורי, לאה בת פרידה, and we are doing also the shiur for לעילוי נשמת מרים בת דבורה, Rivka Yael's mother, Alea Shalom. You remember we davened for her yesterday and she passed away this morning. So Bezrat Hashem also Leilu Nishmata, Alea Shalom Tishmata Tzara B'tzor HaChaim. And Bezrat Hashem and Leilu Nishmat Siyoma ben Ephraim, הנולד ממרים, עליו השלום תשמתו צרה בצורה חיים, לעילוי נשמת חנה תהילה בת זיזת, עליה השלום תשמתה צרה בצורה חיים, ולעילוי נשמת רומן שלום בן מנחם מיכאל, הנולד בן רחל נדיה, עליו השלום תשמתה בצורה חיים. And בעזרת השם לשמואל בנימין שמחה אלתר בן ליפמן ולאה, עליו השלום תשמתה בצורה חיים. And we're continuing for רפואה שלמה בעזרת השם לשרה בת רינה, יונה בת שרה זוהרה, חיים יוסף הכהן בן אינבר ברכה, יוסף בן שרה, אסתר בן שרה, חיים נתן ראובן בן דליה, רבקה יעל בת שרה, חנה חני בת חווה, שרה סעידי בת אסתר, שרה בת מלכה, שרה בת מלכה, קרן בת שו, אנג'לה עדינה בת גולשרה, רחל חיה בת לאה שרה, שרה רחל בת חסידה שרה, חיידית יהודית בת רחל, רחל בת פסיה, צביה בת שרה, חיים סימון חנניה יהושע בן לאה, בלה בת אסתר, בלה בת מרים, and בעזרת השם צביה סבטה אורה בת שרה, דבורה בת שרנה, רחל פשה בת חנה, רבקה בת רחל פשה, ויצחק בן רחל, עמנואל צבי בן ציפורה, הרבנית הניה בת ברכה דבורה לאה, חנה בת רבקה לאה, אביגיל פרידה בת שושנה, רחל פסיה בת חנה, תמזה יצחק בן תאיטו, מלכה רג'ינה בת טובה, חיה רבקה בת יוכבד קיילה, בלה בת אסנת, and the baby, תינוק בן שרה. בעזרת השם, that everybody will have רפואה שלמה בסייעתא דשמיא, and everybody that is healthy, may Hashem continue their health mentally and physically. Dear ladies, this Shabbat is Parashat Bo. And over here we are finishing the 10 plagues. We have 3 plagues in Parashat Bo. We have the plague of Arbe, which is the locust, and we have the plague of darkness, and we have the plague of the firstborn. The 7 first plagues in Parashat Vayera. And Bezrat Hashem, we're going to speak about both of the Parshiyot together through Ahavat Chaim shel Rabbi Menachem Menashe Bezrat Hashem, and we have also through Rabbi Matityahu Glazonson's, and also Abnei Sachar Bezrat Hashem, Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech Medinov, and we're going to do from the Gemara Shabbat, page 156, Amud Aleph Vebet, and בסייעתא דשמיא also by רבי שמשון מאוסטרופולי, ניצוצי שמשון, עליהם השלום זכותם תגן עלינו, and by רבי מתתיהו גלזרסון that quotes מאור עיניים. We learned from the book מאור עיניים בסייעתא דשמיא, so we're going to also learn by the מאור עיניים. בסייעתא דשמיא, we are going to start, I'm going to אהבת חיים, and I want to read for you what he says. We know that the Hashem saved the children of Israel with the first plague that started with water, and then he drowned the Egyptians also with water. So it started with water and finished with water. Why? Because the sorrows that the Egyptians brought upon the children of Israel were so harsh, and one after the other, like waves of water. And furthermore, in Yechezkel, we just read it last week, in Yechezkel, it says chapter 29, verse Gimel, verse 3, Pharaoh considered himself like a god, and he said that he created the river Nile, so he said, Amar li yeori v'ani asitini, which means I created myself, I'm a god, chas v'shalom, and he created the Niles, and he made himself a god. So because he referred to the Nile, and he mentioned that he's a god, that he referred to himself as a god, then Egypt became a land that all of the world would look at this land, on Egypt. So it says, באהבת חיים, he says, במכת דם, in Parashat Bo There, he says, like, ועל יסוד התפארות זו, because he praised himself like a god, Pharaoh, זו נעשתה מטרופולין לכל העולם כולו. So Egypt became like a metropolis to all of the world. עד כי פרעה הרשע הריב עוז בנפשו, until he became so confident with himself, Pharaoh, to say, יאור לי ואני עשיתני. Which means he referred to himself as a god, and he created also the Niles, and everything is in his hand. לכן מכה הראשונה הייתה במים בחודש תמוז. Now I made a table, but I'm going to give you Bezrat Hashem. We're going to go through this. So Hashem wanted to show that all of we know, Rabbi Nachman Breslev says that in general there are three wheels. The wheel of this world, and then the wheel that surrounds this world, which is the planets, the sun and moon, the stars, all this is the wheel, and the wheel of the angels in general. So Hashem wants to show by these 10 plagues that the only one that controls all of the wheels, every split of a second, every day, from the beginning of the world till the end of the world, is Hashem, is God. God is everything, and everything is Hashem. And he does this, Hashem showed it to the whole world by the plagues. By the plagues and by exodus of the children of Israel from Egypt, and by splitting the sea, and by receiving the Torah on Mountain Sinai. All of this to show that the divine providence is over the world, because you know, it says in the Rambam, B'Mishneh Torah Barambam, it says over there that the nations were confused and got to mistakes by serving the servants of Hashem, by making gods from the servants of Hashem. If it's the sun, if it's the moon, if it's the constellations. So by serving the servants of Hashem, they refer to them as gods. But the only God is the God that created the world, the God of the Israelites. Hashem Elokim, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There's one God for the whole universe, the God that created the universe. So this is what it says, Ahavat Chaim. So he says that the first plague was on the month of Tammuz. Ki sartan hu rosh hamazalot. Because you know there are four fundamental elements that Hashem with this used to create the physical world. And Hashem created these elements. Everything was created by Hashem. And the elements, we have fire, water, we have earth, and we have air. These are the four elements. The first element of water, and each one refers to, and it goes like this. You have the month, the constellation, you have the planet, that influences this month, this constellation, and you have the element of the month. So we see that the month of Tammuz, which is the fourth month of the first month of the year, we are in Parashat Bo, and over there it says, "HaChodesh lachem, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodashim." The head of the months by the Torah is Nisan, is the month of Nisan, the month that we went out of Egypt. This is how Hashem loves the children of Israel. He wants us to refer to Nisan as the first month. We know that Tishrei is the first month for judgment. We start from Tishrei. But Nisan, because Hashem took us out of Egypt, the first month, he tells us to count as the month of Nisan. So, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, lachem, which means Lamed Chaf Mem, is Melech. The letters of, to you, it's the Lamed Chaf Mem is the letters of Melech. It's the king of all of the months. It's Nisan is on the month of Aviv, of the spring, Aviv Av Yud Bet Chodashim, which means the father of 12 months. It's the first month. HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodashim Rishon hu lachem. He will be the first for you, because this is the months of salvation for the children of Israel. Chodesh HaGeula. So the first month is Nisan, and Nisan, the constellation of Nisan is Aries, and the fundamental element is fire. And then we come to the month after Nisan comes the month of Iyar, which is Taurus. The constellation is Taurus, and the fundamental element is earth. And then we come to Sivan. Sivan, that we received the Torah, you remember, from Nisan until Sivan, we counted 50 days, and then on the 50th day, which is Shavuot, we received the Torah, Matan Torah, on Mountain Sinai. This is Geminite. The constellation is Geminite, and the element is air. And we come B'siyata Dishmaya, just a minute. Okay, Gemini, I didn't make a mistake as a Tomim in Hebrew. And we come to the month of Tammuz that comes after the month of Sivan, and the constellation of the month of Tammuz is Cancer, and the element is water. So this is the first month, which is the head of the months of water. Because water, we have the month of Tammuz, we have Cancer, we have spices, and we have Akrav, Scorpio. So all of this is the months of water. Just in general, I'm giving you, we're going to go through everything. Bezrat Hashem, I need a lot of Siyata Dishmaya to go through everything with you, and we're going to go through all of the books to see how Hashem showed the whole world that he is the only ruler, and these are his servants. And by this, B'siyata Dishmaya, he made revealed miracles to the children of Israel to show that we are his firstborn. And B'siyata Dishmaya, we are all one big family, and we are the firstborn of Hashem. So we come, and it says, Kisartanu Rosh HaMazalot HaMiyuchasot Lemayim, because Cancer, the constellation of Cancer, which is on the month of Tammuz, is the head of the constellations that refer to water. Velama itchil b'mayim velo b'davar acher, and why he started with water and not from anything else, not any element, a different element. Please mute yourselves. יען הקדוש ברוך הוא מאז בריאת השמיים והארץ, זה היה תחילת מעשיו, because Hashem started with, Hashem made light, ויהי אור, light and darkness, and the first thing that he did was the water. That he made distinguish between the water in heavens and the water over here in earth. And we see, ועתה הגיע לגלות מלכותו יתברך למטה בארץ. And now it was the time to reveal the kingdom of Hashem, that he is the king of the world here on earth. לכן כדי להוציא את בני אדם מהשיבוש הנתונים בו, so in order to take humanity out of the mistake they're in, the confusion that they're in, כאילו חס ושלום, בורא העולם סילק חלילה השגחתו מבריאותיו בעולמו, נתנה ביד המזלות, שרי מעלה כמחשבת המצריים. So people used to think that Hashem created the world, but he gave all of the control to the wheel of the planets, the wheel of the constellations, and he doesn't interfere in the world. אשר בני האדם שיעבדו את עצמם להם, and people serve the servants of Hashem מבלי הכרה ביוצרם, without acknowledging and knowing Hashem, without acknowledging and knowing God that created the world. These are only his servants. אשר עיניו יתברך משוטטות בכל הארץ, that the eyes of Hashem is all over the world, sees everything that happens in the world in every split of a second and every day. ולית אתר פנוי מיניה, and there's no place that is without the divine providence, the divine presence in it. ומלוא כל הארץ כבודו, and the honor of Hashem is all over. Hashem is inside the world, outside the world, all over Hashem. Hashem was, היה הווה ויהיה. He was before the beginning of the world, he is now, and he will be even after the world, אשר הוא יתברך מחייק את הכל. He gives life, Hashem gives livelihood to the whole world, heaven and earth, השמיים ושמי השמיים, and the heavens of heavens, הארץ וכל אשר עליה, earth and everything that is on it, הימים וכל אשר בהם, the oceans, everything that we see, וכל צבא השמיים משובטים ומשתחווים לו יתברך, and all of the army of heavens, which is all the angels and the stars and the planets and the constellations, everything, they all bow to God. They all bow to Hashem. לכן מכה ראשונה היה נגד מזל סרטן. That's why the first plague was parallel to the constellation of Cancer. ראש מזלות המיוחסים ליסוד המים. The head of the constellations that refer to water. יסוד הראשון שברא הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו. This is the first fundamental element that Hashem created in his world. Then he said to the water to move themselves in order that earth will be revealed, but this was the first thing. So we see, בסייעתא דשמיא, that Hashem started with the month of Tammuz, and Rashi says like this. He says, how was each plague? How did Hashem bring each plague? So he says each plague was a month. So כל מכה הייתה משמשת חודש ימים. Three-thirds of the month, שלושת רבעי חודש, פחד ומהומת התראה. Moshe Rabbeinu will come and will warn Pharaoh and all of the Egyptians, and there was a big fright among the Egyptians, and the last quarter of the month, then came the plague. ורביע החודש המכה עצמה. כדברי רש"י הקדוש. So it started with the month of Tammuz. We will go Bezrat Hashem one by one. So let's go and see. We spoke about the Gemara. I want first to go to, it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, I'm going to Nitzotzei Shimshon, for Rabbi Shimshon Mostropoli, and it says over there, he quotes the Zohar HaKadosh, part 3, page 216, Amud Bet. He says כך, כל בריין דעלמא, which means every creature in the world, קודם דהתייבא תורה, before we received the Torah, קודם דהתייבא תורה לישראל, אהבו תליין במזל. All of them were dependent on the constellation. ואפילו בני חיי ומזוני, even the children, even the life, and also how to provide for themselves. אבל בתרתי תאוות תורייתא לישראל, but when the children of Israel received the Torah, then the children of Israel went out. הפיקלון מחיובה דכוכביה ומזלי. The children of Israel went out of the influence of the planets, which means the seven stars, the 7 planets, and the constellation. And we know this. It says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says this, and we know this from Avraham Avinu. So we go to Avraham Avinu. We spoke about it last lesson, בסייעתא דשמיא, yesterday, last lesson. אמר אברהם אבינו לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, it's מסכת שבת בגמרא. He says in front of Hashem, he says, I looked at the astrology, I looked at the stars, and I know that I can't bear children, he says. הוא אומר, הסתכלתי במזל, I look at the constellations, in his constellation, ואין לי אלא בן אחד. And he has a debate with Hashem, and he says, and I have my son, because he caused Eliezer, Eved Avraham, the servant of Abraham. He wasn't Jewish. He converted him, and he converted and became Jewish. And he tells him, he is the one that is going to inherit me, because I don't have children, I don't have sons, and I can see that I won't have sons. הקדוש ברוך הוא told him, צא מההצטגנות שלך שאין מזל לישראל. He says, don't refer to the astrology, but know that there's no constellation to the children of Israel. שמזלך הוא צדק. He says, your constellation, he says, is tzedek. And Tzedek B'siyata Dishmaya is Jupiter. Your planet is Tzedek. It's Jupiter. That was at the time that he was born. Jupiter was at that time, and it is in the west. Nimtza b'ma'arav, ולכן אינך להורד. Because it's in the west, Jupiter, when you were born, you cannot bear children. He said, Hashem tells him, I am going to move Jupiter to the east, and then you can have children. So look how beautiful. It says Hashem says it's in my hand. They're all my servants. I'm going to move. You were born in when the planet of at that time and that hour that the planet of Jupiter Tzedek had influence, and because of this that this planet was in the west, and because of this you cannot bear children, but I'm going to change it and I'm going to move it to the east, and you'll have children. And we know, like we spoke yesterday, that Rabbi Hanina at Masechet Shabbat, he says, Rabbi Hanina says there is a constellation to the children of Israel, and Rabbi Yochanan says there's no constellation to the children of Israel. And we know that the month of Shvat that we started, this is now Bet Shvat, it's the second day of Shvat, and we know B'siyata Dishmaya, now we're on the third day of Shvat, but we know B'siyata Dishmaya that the constellation of the children of Israel is Aquarius, is Li, that this is the month of Shvat, which is Aquarius. And it says why it's Aquarius, why it's a bucket, in order that the children of Israel will fill it with Torah, B'siyata Dishmaya, and it will overflow and influence the whole world, that everybody will know Hashem, and will know that it's only everything that happens in this world is in the hands of Hashem. And Hashem is waiting. Hashem is the king of the world, even if we don't announce him as a king. Even if there's a people who do not know God, it doesn't change the reality and the fact that God created the world and he's the ruler of the world. But by not knowing this, it doesn't change it. This is a fact. But Hashem wants us to be aware of this, and aware and thank him and praise his name. And he promised that he will bestow blessings and goodness upon us. So B'siyata Dishmaya, we are going and we are seeing that he told Avraham Avinu, he took him out and he told him, look at all the stars in the sky. And he told me, this is your descendants. This is how many of your descendants are going to be B'siyata Dishmaya. And we go to the Ibn Ezra. Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra writes, first I'll go to the Ramban. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, says, גזירת הכוכבים היא מן הניסים הנסתרים, שכל התורה תלויה בהם. He says that the influence of the planets is part of the hidden, concealed miracles that all of the Torah depends בהם, אך היהודי, but the Jewish person, בכוח בחירתו. The Jewish people, we all have the free will. If the Jewish people, B'siyata Dishmaya, choose to go in the way of Hashem, like he told us, נתתי לפניך היום ברכה וקללה, I put in front of you today a blessing and a curse. If we go by the way of Hashem, והליכתו בדרך תורה ומצוות, מתעלה מעל המזל. And we go and we follow the way of Hashem, B'siyata Dishmaya, we are above the constellations. And it says, Ibn Ezra says, דבר מנוסה הוא, כי יש לכל עם ועם כוכב ידוע ומזל. And every nation has a planet that influences it, and also a constellation that influences it. וכן יש לכל עיר ועיר, and every city and city, and every state and state. והשם שם לישראל מעלה גדולה, and Hashem gave to the children of Israel a big merit, להיות השם יועצם, that they are directly under the Hashem, not under any constellation. When we choose to be Jewish, to follow the way of Hashem, to do the will of Hashem, then we are above the constellation. And by following the way of Hashem, following His commandments, studying Torah, doing good deeds, by this we overflow the water of the Torah. The prophet says, he who is thirsty, go to the water, thirsty spiritually, to learn the way of Hashem. And by doing this, Hashem gives us the zchut, the merit to bestow goodness and prosperity to the whole world. And it says, Rabbeinu Bachye says, Ein mazal, about chapter 31 in Chumash Dvarim, verse 16, he says, V'zau shamru ein mazal Yisrael, and this is why Rabbi Yochanan says there's no, the children of Israel are not under the constellations. אין הכוונה בזה שלוי המזלות גורמים לישראל. We don't mean by this, he says, Rabbeinu Bechai says, that the constellation do not influence the children of Israel, because it says, mazalo gorem. When a person is born, his constellation, the constellation that he was born, the hour that he is born, the planet that was, the place that the planets were, influences the person. אבל ישראל אינן מסורים תחת ממשלת המזלות. The children of Israel are not under the constellations, לפי שהכוכבים בכל העולם נבראו בשביל צדיקים. Because once we follow the way of Hashem, all of this was created for all of the righteous. So we are above the constellation, בסייעתא דשמיא. And we continue, and we see, it says, and Rabbeinu Bechaye says, בספרו, in his book, כד הקמח, page 83, he says, ובכך עיניך וראה, כי בא הרמז הזה בשמות המזלות. And all of this is, all of the, I'm trying to find the right translation, בסייעתא דשמיא, that all of the influence that we see over humanity is hinted by the name of the constellations. ובכך עיניך וראה, כי בא הרמז הזה בשמות המזלות ללמדך, in order to teach you, כי אף על פי שכוח המזלות גדול מאוד, even though the influence of the constellations is big, ושהם פועלים פעולותיהם מששת ימי בראשית, and they have influence from the 6 days of creation, והעולם השפל מתנהג בהם, and this earth that we live in is influenced by them. הנה יש עליהם כוח עליון. There's a power above them. הוא כוח השם יתברך. It's the power of Hashem, of God. ועל כן, בסייעתא דשמיא, and therefore, נבחר החודש הזה שמזלו מאזניים, and therefore, Hashem chose on the constellation that is Libra, and on the month of Tishrei, שיהיה יום הדין. Why? Because it's Libra, מאזניים. It's a way. So, שבו יהיה הדין, this is the judgment day that Hashem judges all of His creation. Everybody goes in front of Hashem, and they're all judged on that day, which is Rosh Hashanah. So, בסייעתא דשמיא, I'm going to give you a little bit, Bezrat Hashem, and because astrology takes a big, even the days are named by the planets. So, let's see, Sunday, it's the sun, and then Monday is the moon. And we see Saturday is Saturn, Shabtai, it's Shabbat, בסייעתא דשמיא. So we can see even this goes by it. And there's also the influence of the planets during the day. So we know that on Sunday, which we know that it's the influence of the sun, and Monday, because let's write the seven planets, and the planets are bekitzur, in short, are called Shatzam Chankal. Shatzam, Shin, it's Shabtai. Shabtai is, let me see that I won't forget the name. Shabtai is Saturn, and then we have Tzedek, and Tzedek is Jupiter, and then we have Mem is Ma'adim. Ma'adim is Mars, and then we have Chama, and Chama is the sun, and then we have Nun, שזה Noga. Noga is Venus, and then we have Chav Kochav, and Kochav is Mercury, and then we have Lamed, שזה Levana, and Levana is the moon. So we see that Sunday is in the influence of the planet, the sun. And then Monday is in the influence of the moon. And Tuesday is in the influence of Mars. This is from the book of Meor Einayim. And then we have Wednesday is in the influence of Mercury, and which is Kochav. And we have Thursday is the influence of Jupiter. And we have on Friday, it's the influence of Venus, of Noga, and Shabtai, which is Saturn, is on Shabbat, B'siyata Dishmaya. So this is from Briat HaOlam. But Hashem helped the children of Israel that they will be above the constellations. And the Greeks, on Chanukah, we know that the Greeks didn't allow us to keep Shabbat, the celebration of the first day of the month, and a circumcision. Why? Because there are 3 planets from the 7 planets that influence the world. They have harsh influence, they cause wars, they cause a loss of money, like we have now inflation. So they cause loss of money, and that people will not know God. They cause a confusion in the belief of people. And there are 4 stars that are good stars for the world, that bring good influence to the world. So the 3 stars that cause influence that is not good on the world is Shabtai, Ma'adim, Velevana, which is Saturn, Mars, and the moon. And the 4 stars that are good for the world is Chama, which is the sun, Tzedek, which is Jupiter, and Noga, which is Venus, and Kochav, which is Mercury. These are the 4 stars that are good, and the ones that are not good. And I want to show you examples. I'm going to open Nitzotzei Shimshon, and we know that Yosef HaTzadik became a ruler of Egypt. And this Pharaoh didn't remember Yosef, because we didn't remember Hashem. So this Pharaoh didn't remember Yosef, and it says, Umoshel bechol eretz Mitzrayim, and he became a ruler over the whole land of Egypt. Maze Moshel? Moshel is a ruler, is in Hebrew is Moshel, Mem, Shin, and Lamed. Maze Mem. So we need, Mem is parallel to Ma'adim. We said there are 3 planets that cause ruining in this world, that cause evil influence on this world. So Mem is Ma'adim, and we said B'siyata Dishmaya that Ma'adim, Baruch Hashem, Ma'adim, which is Mars, and then Shin is Shabtai, which is Saturn, and Lamed is Levana. So Yosef HaTzadik, because he was righteous and he continued studying the Torah and doing the mitzvot and following the commandments like Yaakov Avinu taught him, even though he was in Egypt and he was alone, so he was ruling over these 3 planets that they cannot influence them in a evil way, in not a good way. And we know Parashat Vayishlach that Yaakov Avinu הגיע שלם. Parashat Vayishlach, it says that Yaakov Avinu, it says, ויבוא יעקב שלם, and Yaakov came shalem, a whole, which means he was also eliminating the influence of these 3 stars, because shalem is the letters of Moshel, of ruling. It's the same letters in Hebrew, Shalem v'Moshel. So the Shin again is Shabtai, which is Saturn, and then we have the Lamed is Levana, which is the moon, and then we have the Mem, which is Ma'adim, which is Mars. And let's see, Rabbi Shimshon Rostropoli says, by Maor Enaim, he says like this, that Shabtai, Satan, influences the body of a human being. He causes sicknesses, lo alenu. So we know that Yaakov Avinu was fighting with the angel of Esav, and Hashem healed him. And Hashem healed him, and by healing Yaakov Avinu, we see that he prevented the influence of the planet of Shabtai. And then we have Levana. Levana influences the Torah, and we know that Yaakov Avinu was with Lavan for 22 years. He wasn't with his father, and he was 20 years with Lavan, and over there he still kept all of the mitzvot, all the commandments, and he studied Torah, and he was righteous. And then we see the influence of Ma'adim. Ma'adim is Mars, and it influences the money, causes us, lo alenu, to be, God forbid, to be poor and not have plenty, like we come into inflation now, causes problems in the world with prosperity. So we know that Yaakov Avinu came with, he was rich, B'siyata Dishmaya, so he came Shalem, he was ruling, his son Yosef was ruling in Egypt. Which means they ruled, they took off the influence of these three stars upon themselves, which is the three stars that causes wars, and Ma'adim causes wars and bloodsheding, and poorness and sickness. All of these three stars, and the confusion by not knowing who's the God of the world. It's one God. Hashem. So we see they were all protecting from this. So Hashem gave us also mitzvot. The commandments are to protect us. And we have the commandments. The men have 3 commandments, and the Greeks knew astrology very well. They were very wise. So they knew that by keeping Shabbat, Hashem protects us from the influence of Saturn, of the planet Saturn, by keeping Shabbat. And he knew that by celebrating the first day of the month, Hashem protects the children of Israel from the influence of the moon. And by doing tzedakah b'siyata dishmaya, Hashem protects the children of Israel from the influence of Mars, and that they won't come poor, and they will have plenty all the time b'siyata dishmaya. And that's why Hashem gave us this mitzvot to protect the men. So how do we do this? B'siyata dishmaya, we have circumcision, Brit Milah, we have circumcision, and we'll look at it, and we have Rosh Chodesh, which means circumcision protects, and Shabbat. Circumcision protects from the planet Mars, and Shabbat protects from this, keeping Shabbat protects from the planet Saturn, and Rosh Chodesh protects, and celebrating the first day of the month protects from the planet Moon. So this is for the men. David HaMelech says in chapter 119 in Tehillim, he says, verse 164, he says, Sheva bayom ilalticha al mishpatei tzidkecha, that I praise 7 times a day, I praise your name, I have praised your name for your righteous ordinances. So we see over here, what does it mean, Sheva? Because it says, I'm protected. Why? Because he says, the circumcision that I have protects me from Mars, from Ma'adim, from the influence of Ma'adim, and that tefillin, he says, that I put on my head and on my hand, b'siyata dishmaya, on the head, it protects me from the influence of the planet Saturn, and on the hand, it protects me because it's parallel to the heart. It protects me from the confusion of the moon. And the four stripes of the tzitzit is parallel to the 4 good planets that give good influence to the world. So together, it's parallel to the 7 planets. That's why he says, Sheva bayom ilalticha. 7 times a day, I have praised you. Also, the women have mitzvot to protect them. What did Hashem give us? Omer HaMaor Enaim, the Maor Enaim says that these three planets, Mars, Saturn and Moon, that רעת שלושת הכוכבים לפי חיובם הרעה, הזהירו את הנשים, that's why the women have מצוות חנה. They have three mitzvot, main three mitzvot. הזהירו את הנשים בשלושה מצוות כנגדם. והם הנידה, the purity of the family, taking a portion of a challah and lighting the candles of Shabbat and Yom Tov. Because the nida, because Mars is, Ma'adim is a planet that brings wars and bloodshed. So the nida, keeping the purity of the family, protect us as women from the influence of Mars. And then, B'siyata Dishmaya, when we take a portion of the challah, we prepare a challah and we take a portion of a challah, it protects us from the planet Moon. And then, B'siyata Dishmaya, when we light the candles of Shabbat and Yom Tov and the festivals, it protects us from the influence of Shabtai of Mars. So, of Saturn, slicha. Of Saturn, Shabtai. So we see that we are protected by following the commandments. Furthermore, dear ladies, the protection was in Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, by the menorah. The menorah had 7 branches. It was 1 in the middle and 3 on each side, referring to the 7 planets. So I told you, B'siyata Dishmaya, that this is how our sages put in order the 7 planets. It starts Shin Tzadik Mem, Shatzam, Chankal. So Shin Tzadik Mem, Shin is on the, it goes, Shin is Shabtai, and Shabtai is Saturn, and then Tzadik is Tzedek, and Tzedek is Jupiter, and then Mem is Ma'adim, Ma'adim is Mars on one side, the 3. And then we have Chama. Chama is the sun is the middle of the menorah. And then we have on the other side, the Nun is Noga, Noga is Venus, and Chaf is Kochav is Mercury, and Lamed is Levana is the moon. 3 by 3. Parallel, that the sun is, the middle one is parallel to Shabbat. Shabbat is the middle one, and we have 3 on the right side, we have 3 days before Shabbat, and on the left side, the 3, we have 3 days after Shabbat. And then it's parallel, the middle one, which is like us. You see, the middle one, we are also built like the menorah, because we have 3 organs that go out of our body, and we have the middle line. This is the middle line, and the 3 organs that go out of our body is the ears, the hands, and the legs. If we'll pick everything up, we are the menorah. So the middle line is the Torah, the written Torah. And 3 on each side, which is together 6, is the 6 books of the Mishnah. And by this, we are protected from all of the seven, the influences of all of the 7 planets. Can you imagine how Hashem loves us? B'siyata Dishmaya. וכתוב כאן, and it says המאור עיניים, הדלקת קנה המנורה על ידי הכהן, by lighting the menorah by the Kohen, מלבדת על כוח על התורה להשפיע על הכוכבים. That's the influence of the Torah upon the planets, and by this we are above the constellation, and by this we bestow goodness to the whole world. The whole world is protected. להשפיע על הכוכבים המלמד על כוח ישראל, on the power of the children of Israel, להתעלות מעל המזל, כי אין מזל לישראל. So the children of Israel are above the constellation. And like I told you, this influences this world and heavens and everything that is created in this world. And everything, and all of the servants and all of creation listens to the word of Hashem. The one that pulls the strings over all of the creation, all of the wheels, is Hashem. So now, Bezrat Hashem, let's see. I will go now, B'siyata Dishmaya, רק רגע. I will go to show you the influence and what Hashem showed the Egyptians and the whole world by the 10 plagues. And we are going by Ahavat Chaim. And it says like this. Okay. There are 10 plagues parallel to the 10 months. There are 12 months in a year. 2 months, in the month of Nisan, we went out of Egypt, and the month of Iyar, on the month of Iyar, we were preparing ourselves by fixing our character traits and paying attention. This is 7 branches of the menorah, parallel to the 7 counts of the Kabbalah that come from here down, which means there are 3 Gimel Rishonot, which is Keter, a crown, wisdom and understanding, but it's not part of this. We are fixing the 3 lower ones, which is the midot, the attributes, which is chesed, mercy, gvura, which is a judgment, a might, and then we have tiferet, which is beauty, and we have netzach, eternity, we have hod, that is glory, we have fundamental, that is esod, and the 7th one is kingdom. So B'siyata Dishmaya, and know that all of the branches of the menorah were towards the middle branch of the middle stick of the menorah. And let's go to see Bezrat Hashem the plagues one by one. So the first plague was in the month of Tammuz, to show this is the month of Tammuz that we said. And the constellation of the month of Tammuz is Cancer, and the planet that influences the month of Tammuz is the moon. And know that Reuven, the tribe of Reuven, Shvat, the month of Shvat, the tribe of Reuven is referred to B'siyata Tishmaya, to this month, and the fundamental element is water. So on this month there was the plague of blood. And then we go to the second month, the month of Av, that comes after that. And you remember that Tammuz and Av took Esav, the evil Esav, and he took these months. And on the 17th of the month of Tammuz, the walls of the city of Jerusalem were broken. And on the 9th of the month of Av and the 10th of the month of Av, the temple was burnt. So the month of Av, it was the plague of frogs. And this was parallel to the constellation of Leo, and the influence planet on this month is the planet the sun, and this is parallel to the fundamental element of fire. And the tribe that is parallel to this month is the tribe of Shimon. And then we go to the month of Elul. The month of Elul is Virgo, and on that month Hashem gave the lice on the Egyptians. This is the month of Elul, which is constellation is Virgo, and its star that influences this month is Kochav, and Kochav is Mercury, and the element is Earth. And the tribe that is considered on this month is the tribe of Gad. And then we go to the next plague. The next plague is Arov, wild animals. And this was on the month of Tishrei. And this is the month of Libra, that the constellation is Libra. Hashem wanted to show that he can change all of the work of all of his servants, and to move them wherever he wants. Even though the Egyptians knew astrology, and Hashem showed them who rules the world, these are only his servants. And so the month of Tishrei, they had wild animals, not only wild animals, but also the place that they lived was with them. It was a double miracle. Not only that Hashem brought the wild animals on the Egyptians, but also that the place that they lived went with them. So we see on the month of Tishrei, which is the constellation of Libra, and the planet is Noga, which is Venus, and the element is air, and the tribe that is parallel to this is Ephraim. And we go now to the next month, which is the month of Cheshvan, the month of the flood, and the plague at that month was Dever. Dever was a plague over the animals, over the cattle. And this, the month of Cheshvan, the constellation is Scorpio, is Akrav, the planet is Ma'adim, is Mars, and and the element is water, and the tribe that is parallel to this is the tribe of Menashe. And then we go to the month of Kislev, after that Kislev, and we have on the month of Kislev boils. Hashem gave Shechin over the Egyptians, the plague of boils, and the constellation of Kislev is Sagittarian, and the planet is Tzedek, and Tzedek is Jupiter, and the element is fire, and this is parallel to the tribe of Binyamin. And then we come to the month of Tevet, and the month of Tevet, the previous month, the plague was Barad, hail, and that there were two miracles because it was a hail and fire inside. It was water, freezed water and ice and fire together. So this was the plague on the month of Tevet, which was Barad. And then this is the constellation of Gdi, and the constellation is Capricorn, and the planet that influences this month is Shabtai, Saturn, and this and the element is Adama, it's earth, and the tribe that is parallel to this is Dan, the tribe of Dan. And then we come to Shvat. Shvat is this month that we are in. So the plague, this is now we're coming to Parashat Bo. These are the last three plagues. So the first plague was in Parashat Bo was Arbe. It was the 8th plague was Arbe, and Arbe is locust. So this was Arbe, the month of Shvat, which the constellation is Li, is Aquarius, and the star that influences is Saturn, Shabtai, and the element is Avir, which is air. And we know that the B'siyata Dishmaya, Maor V'Shemesh says that the tribe that is parallel to this is the tribe of Asher. And then will come, and this is also Mesefer Yetzirah, that is the book of creation that Avraham Avinu wrote. That is considered that Avraham Avinu wrote. And then we come to the month of Adar, the month of Purim. The month of Purim, the plague of Choshech, of darkness. It wasn't a regular darkness. It's not like night. It had thickness, the darkness. They were afraid even to stand. They couldn't see each other. They didn't move. So the plague of darkness on the month of Adar, which is Pisces, the constellation is Pisces, and the star and the planet that influences it is Tzedek, is Jupiter, and this is Tzedek, and the element is water, and the tribe that is parallel to this month of the month of Adar is Naphtali. And we go to the month of Nisan, the month that was our salvation, that Hashem took us out of Egypt. On that month, Hashem made the death of the firstborns. That was the 10th plague. And in the month of Nisan, why on the month of Nisan? Because the Egyptians, their god, they worshipped Arius, because they knew that the month of Nisan is considered the first month, and it's the head of all of the 12 months. So they said, if we will worship the Arius, the constellation of Arius, then we will rule the whole world. So we see that Hashem wanted to show them there's one ruler, Hashem, Melo Kol Haaretz Kvodo, and only He rules. He is the one that moves all of the strings. Hashem just wants us to announce His name, to know that, to announce His name in this world, to know that He is the ruler. But if we don't know it, if it doesn't come to our conscience, so He's concealed for us. We don't know that. So Hashem wants us to be aware and to have pleasure of the world that He created for us by following His way, because He created the world. So we see over here that this is the month of Nisan, which was the death of the firstborns. the 10th plague, and also that the children of Israel went out of Egypt in this month. And we see that the constellation is Aries, that the Egyptians worshipped. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro, he told Pharaoh, we can't worship Hashem over here, because the Egyptians are worshipping Aries. They will kill us. And you remember, B'Shabbat HaGadol, on the 10th of the month of Nisan, in Parashat Bo, in this portion of the week, Hashem tells the children of Israel, tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell them to take a sheep, and 1 year a sheep, a lamb, and to tie him to the legs of the bed, and after 4 days, on the 14th of the month of Nisan, to slaughter him and to roast him. You remember, and to be B'siyata Dishma, and to be ready to go out of Egypt. And it was a big miracle. So we see over here that the constellation of the month of Nisan is Aries, that the Egyptians worship, and the planet is Ma'adim, which is Ma'adim is Mars, and we told this is Mars causes bloodshed, and in order to take away the influence of Mars, because we didn't have, the children of Israel didn't have any merit then when they were in Egypt. So they were commanded to circumcise themselves and to slaughter the sheep. And by doing this, and by the offering, the sheep offering, and by circumcision, because you can't eat from the sheep offering without being circumcised. So by doing this took off the influence. You see, by following the commandments of Hashem, it took the influence from the children of Israel, of the planet Mars, and we were above the constellation. Hashem gave us 2 commandments to help us, Bezrat Hashem, because the whole world belongs to Him. Melo kol haaretz kvodo. And there's no place that is without Hashem. And the element of the month of Nisan is fire. We roasted the sheep. We roasted the lamb. So, and this is parallel to Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda, and from him comes Mashiach. So, B'siyata Dishmaya, we see that Hashem, everything was calculated by Hashem. To show, in order to reveal that He is the ruler of the world, that everything is His kingdom and everyone is His servants. To take humanity out of this confusion, to know that Hashem is one and His name is one. And all what we see in the world is the servants of Hashem. And that's why now I'm going to Bnei Issachar, and over there it says, by the Ma'amarei Chodesh Shvat, on the month of Shvat, it says like this, that the constellation of the month of Shvat is Aquarius. And if we put the word, and in Hebrew it's Dli, so let's write Li b'milui otiyot. We'll fill in the letters. The Dalet Lamed Taf, and then Lamed is Lamed Mem Dalet, and then Yud is Yud Vav Dalet, and that's calculated. So Dalet, which is Dalet Lamed Taf, Dalet is 4, Lamed is 30, Taf is 400. It's 434. Then we come to Lamed. Lamed is Lamed Mem Dalet. Lamed is 30, Mem is 40, and Dalet is 4, it's 74. And then we come to the Yud of Dli of Aquarius. Yud is Yud Vav Dalet. Yud is 10, Vav is 6, Dalet is 4, together it's 20. Together it's 528. 528 equals 8 times B'siyata Dishmaya Galgal, wheel. So Galgal in Hebrew, a wheel. Gimel is 3, Lamed is 30, another Gimel is 3, another Lamed is 30. Together it's 66. 66 multiplied by 8 is exactly 528. 7 wheels are the 7 planets. Shatzam Chankal, the 7 planets. And the 8th one is the place that they're all in. It's the wheel of the planets, the wheel of the stars. So it means, B'siyata Dishma, that the children of Israel, even though the constellation of the children of Israel is Aquarius, but the children of Israel, Ein Lehem Mazal, they are above the constellation. Because 8 multiplied 8 is above nature, is above the constellation. So B'siyata Dishmaya, by this, Hashem revealed to the whole world that He is the ruler. There's only one ruler, and that the nations are mistaken by serving the servants of Hashem, the servants of God, because these are only the servants, and Hashem is the ruler of the world. Hashem is the king. He was, He is, and He's going to be here. הוא היה, הוא הווה והוא יהיה בסייעתא דשמיא. לכן Hashem wanted to show everyone that Hashem hu Elokim, that Hashem is God. So בסייעתא דשמיא, by this we see the revolution of Hashem and revealing Himself in front of the whole world. And let's bless let's all of us bless that we will all have the zchut to read Mashiach tzidkenu ברחמים בואים במהרה בימינו אמן. כולו טוב. לעולם ייפרד אדם מחברו בדבר הלכה יחיד ברבים הלכה כרבים. And I'll bless you all. בעזרת השם תלינו בטוב ותקיצו בישועה ורחמים.